Hello, hello. Okay, so this week we have Alan Klement, co-founder of AIM, a mortgage kind of platform, as well as currently the principal of customer jobs, an expert in jobs to be done theory, and he's written tons about it all over the internet, most notably with Intercom. If you just search his name on their blog, I think it's blog.intercom.com, and you will find incredible pieces by Alan Klement. Also, search him on Medium, as well as, if you have the time, read his book, When Kale and Coffee Compete. It is excellent. It has definitely changed the way that I think about pretty much everything. It's because we're always employing a job and trying to make progress in our lives. But you'll learn more about that in the episode. It was really great. He's an incredibly bright person, and I hope that I did justice to his intellect by asking insightful questions. So, with that said, please enjoy the show. I think you'll get a lot out of it for the nature of building your brand and learning about how branding and jobs to be done can be used in unison to really create innovative solutions to products, to communication, to design. So enjoy the show, and if you do enjoy the show, please don't forget to share it. So with that, enjoy listening. Alan, how are you today?
I'm excellent. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for being here. Thanks for agreeing to be on the show. So do you want to briefly just give a little bit of a background about yourself and customer jobs?
No, no problem. So, my personal experience is as an entrepreneur. I've had multiple businesses, some successful, which I then sold off to a co-founder or to someone else who wanted to come in and take over the business for me.
Okay.
Or I had businesses blow up in my face. So I've been there inside. I've been in the trenches and won, and been in the trenches and lost horribly.
Okay.
And so now that kind of what brought me to customer jobs and why I talk about today is when I got into customer jobs theory, when it was nascent, I recognized as thought, okay, this is something that might help me in my next business. So I started another business. It was called AIM. It was a marketplace for mortgage bankers and mortgage brokers to interact with each other and pass leads. And it was entirely, started with customer jobs theory, but a lot of the customer jobs theory out at the time, this would have been about 5 years ago, was very lacking. But some of the principles were out there, and I was able to kind of build upon those principles and use that to help me build this business, which very quickly became profitable. And as it was growing, I got to a point to where, okay, this is the point where I'm a manager now, and I'm not really a manager. I want to be a maker. And so that's when as I've done in the past, I just sold the business off to my co-founder and said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and build the next thing. And kind of what I'm doing right now, and that is kind of tell people how I expanded and developed the customer jobs theory to help me build a sustainable, profitable business.
Okay, and do you want to briefly describe what is customer jobs?
Yep. So the shortest version is that it's the understanding that people are buying products for self-betterment. That's what it comes down to the guts. There's a few other things around there, but that's some of the core values or ontological beliefs of customer jobs is people are buying products for self-betterment. And they do that because we as humans, it's in our DNA, we are goal setting aspirational organisms, right? That's why we're different than bears, from birds, from chickens, dogs, whatever. We want to remake the world to make ourselves better and to push ourselves and to explore and do new things. Whereas, I like in my book, I write that a bear who fishes may want a better, faster, easier way to fish, but tomorrow, even if he has that, he's still a bear who fishes. But only a human will think, wow, how about I just think about some way of living where I don't have to even fish at all. Something else can take care of the fishing for me. And once I have that, then I can maybe think about getting out of this dank cave and maybe build this thing. I'll invent this thing called the hut, right? And like live in there. Like that's how we are. And so ultimately that's what Customer Jobs is about. It's about understanding that we're buying products for self-betterment. And then it splits off from there. Are you going to go down the route of exploring existing jobs to be done that are out there? Look at why people are buying a particular product, understand the job to be done, the aspirations a customer has when purchasing that product? Or are we going to think about creating new jobs, right? And inventing new products that create new possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so everybody is clear, your book, When Coffee Meets Kale, correct?
When coffee and kale compete.
When coffee and kale compete, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's fine.
And just for the record, that it is an incredible book. It's how I originally reached out to you. It's how I originally heard of you. And really, like, I read a lot of books a year, and last year, 2016, that was definitely in my top 3, hands down.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. And I'm working on the second edition right now, which should be out shortly. Yeah, I released it online for free as a PDF, whatever it was, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Kind of, to put it out there to see how people would respond to it, and I've been making changes to it every month. I haven't really talked about it much, but I kind of every month I've been updating these PDFs silently, and seeing how people react to it. Yeah, so there's actually probably 10 different versions of the book floating around there. I mean, very small changes. I mean, it's not like it's completely different. Oh my God, no.
Okay.
It's just like, better ways to explain things, or people say, oh, I read this part and it was amazing. I was like, oh, I could talk more about that. Maybe I should talk more about that. Or, yeah, Alan, I had this one question about this one part of the book. It was confusing. I'm like, okay, maybe I should chop that out. You get it, right? So,
yeah.
I'm having a second edition. Yep, exactly. So I'm having the second edition come out. Hopefully, let's be honest, probably the end of next month. It'll be up there on Amazon for Kindle and paperback to buy, and it always will be free PDF to download too.
Great. That's really good to hear, because I'm excited to dig into anything that you're doing, honestly.
Thank you.
So that's a great segue into my first question for you. We're living in a time that it seems that everything is changing incredibly quickly, and with that, I think that brand building is changing incredibly quickly.
Yeah.
And the way that it's been done in the past is not the way it should be done right now, in my opinion, and I think that it will be changing in the future as, to a certain degree, Customer Jobs has been helping with. So, what does it mean to be an iconic brand in the 21st century?
Oh goodness,
it's a big one.
Yeah. So you know what, I'm going to say what I have done in the past, and what's worked for me and people that I've worked with. I preface that just because, I don't want to misrepresent myself, right? I don't want to say like, oh, I know how to build the next biggest, greatest brand, and I know the secrets. Just come to my workshop, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what's worked for me and what's worked with people that I've worked with, and that is ultimately thinking about a brand as again, going back to bar, is honestly as a way of self-betterment, or as part of self-betterment, right? That's really what I recommend you position yourself as, because the old way, right, was identifying. I guess we're thinking maybe. I'm not up to date so much on all the timeline of marketing, but I know like back in the 80s and 90s, and maybe even today, a lot of brands are kind of, developing, creating segments of society and like different lifestyles of people, and putting people into those lifestyles. And like, that's what the brand, we're a health brand for active, health conscious people. Like, like that's our branding, and we're all about being healthy, and that's just, and that's okay. That's great. But then it's just like, well, oh yeah, and therefore, we're attractive to people who are, active, healthy people, right?
Congruent with
But
that lifestyle.
yes. But see, but like even this, for example, right? But see, a healthy. I'm just gonna let that car go by. Hopefully, you'll edit that out. Okay, there we go. But let's think about that for a second. So let's just say, a active, healthy lifestyle type of person, right? That applies to people who, one, are maybe already active and healthy people. But what about the people who aspire to that and are not there yet? So you see?
Yeah.
And so, if you automatically assume, oh, these are the people that we're selling to, they're people they're very svelte and they do yoga and like whatever. But what about the people who are like I feel, I'm depressed all the time, or I'm not, I wish my life was better. I would like to have a active lifestyle or a healthy active lifestyle, but I don't know how to do it, right? And I'm hoping someone out there can help me. And so then, and in that case, you could say that, well, maybe the best way to position your brand isn't that, we're all about healthy, active lifestyle people. Our brand is about helping you become and maintain this active, healthy lifestyle. And so, we help you aspire to this new you, and we'll also help you continue to be that new you into the future.
Now, that's so. I want to actually push back on that a little bit.
Okay.
And I hope that you can maybe push back to me. So,
yeah.
A lot of brands position themselves as these intentionally different entities. So, with the health example, perhaps Lululemon is saying that we're for this lifestyle segment, and that's the lifestyle segment that they want to connect with.
Yep.
And then doesn't that give way, isn't that inherently in their brand and give way to other brands to target or to connect with people who are not within that lifestyle, like another segment that's, as you said, not as not as it's hard to explain.
Well, actually, here I'll put it this way. So actually, let's use the Lululemon example.
Great.
And even that's actually appropriate, because think about what the CEO said 6 months ago or a year ago that ended up getting him fired. Do you remember that?
I'm not sure. I don't.
Well, it was like so this is actually great. This actually illustrates the point I'm trying to make here, is that he made there were complaints that about some people were complaining that not enough sizes of Lululemon spandex pant, the pants or the yoga outfits, not enough sizes were being made. Right. And the CEO said, well, we make it, I don't know exactly, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but we make it for a very particular type of body shape, and there are certain types of body shapes that we just don't, are not part of Lululemon.
Right.
And then that was a huge backlash. Oh my God, because and he got fired for it.
Right.
Now, again, think about that. He was thinking of, we are for active lifestyle people who are already healthy, active lifestyle people. But
yes,
there was
that's
a
exactly
massive
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there was this massive segment though of people who were buying Lululemon stuff or wanted to, because they wanted to become that. They wanted to get there, but they weren't there yet.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Isn't that the appeal to those people, that they are specifically for people who are not like them, and they're trying to get to the person who is not like them? They're aspiring to that.
Um, Maybe I don't understand your question. Can you answer that question one more time?
So Lululemon is putting out a specific ideal,
Yes.
and by putting out that ideal, all those people who don't fit that ideal are therefore compelled to interact with the brand.
Yes, absolutely. But those are not the customers that do it. There are people who are already, again, it comes to this idea of progress, right?
Progress, yeah.
There's a spectrum. There's people who again are maybe I buy Lululemon because that's what people like me, buy and use, and I want other people, and I just want to reinforce that image, right? And because that's what it is. Or there's people on the other end of the spectrum, which is I wish I could be that person.
Yeah.
And so help me become that. And those are actually two different. I mean, to me, those are two totally different marketing pitches, right? Or two totally different type of branding avenues that you can go.
Right. So give me an example of a brand that you think is really good in today's day and age. One do you think that's really understanding customer jobs and understanding the landscape that is changing, if you think it's changing, or not changing if you don't think it's changing?
Yep. It actually was really funny. I was just talking about this today. There's two that I was thinking about today and talking about. Dos Equis and Red Bull, right?
Oh, love it. Get into it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dos Equis, watch those commercials. It's nothing. I mean, it's like, guys like, I don't like beer. What if I do? I drink Dos Equis. It's basically kind of like a backhanded thing to beer, right?
Right.
But the 99% of the commercial is, this is the kind of person who drinks Dos Equis. Like, do you want to be an edgy whoever person? Do you want to become what's the guy's name? The most interesting man in the world.
Man in the world, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Do you want to be the most interesting man in the world? Okay, drink Dos Equis. Like that's what we're here to do to help you become. And so that's been very successful for them, and they understand. And again, it's not showing nothing to do with the product. I mean, directly, right? They're not talking about it tastes so good or hoppy or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's not about the product or even like what the product does. Like I drink Dos Equis and get wasted. It's not that.
Right.
It's I'm the most interesting man in the world, and therefore I drink Dos Equis.
Right.
So there's that, which I think is great. Again, it's the progress. Like that's help me become the most interesting man in the world. And here's the thing: you never will become the most interesting man in the world. Right. So it's like ongoing consumption progress, right?
Right.
So there's that, and then there's Red Bull, right? Which is, I was actually just looking for the quote today or the statement. Red Bull, they have, I forgot who it was. I'm trying to find the quote exactly, if it was the CEO or the founder or whoever. It was talking about, we are not a beverage company. That's not what we are. We are extreme sports company, something like that.
Yeah.
Like nothing to do with beverage, right?
Right.
And so, we celebrate extremeness. That's why we did the space jump thing, right? We really got up there and did the highest space jump ever. That's why we have the games where people create their own flying machines and fly it off platforms into the water. Like that's what we're about. We're about extreme.
Right.
And that's the culture we want to create. And again, and by the way, Red Bull is one part of that culture.
So, as an aside to that, I have a question.
Yeah.
One thing that's both apparent with Red Bull and Dos Equis, just Dos Equis, let's just say.
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
There's this really large gap between the product and the ideal of the brand, which you just beautifully articulated. Now, you have this great idea. So we'll take Red Bull, for example. It's not a drink company. It is an extreme sports company. And all the activities around the brand are akin to one of an extreme sports company. Absolutely. And in the mind of the customer, they're making progress towards that. Perfect. But the product itself doesn't. And in an age where I can search ingredients, and in an age where I can look on YouTube and see that people are saying that all the sugar in in Red Bull is taking me really far away from progress towards an extreme sports lifestyle. How does the brand adapt, and does that make them a good brand? That the ideal that they have and the product that they have are almost two separate worlds apart. I had this really interesting conversation yesterday with a person who's really successful in the branding world, and she was talking about how she feels that a lot of the branding that she does is just on the surface, and she wished that it would go deeper into the product, into the actual experience that the person is having. And I would just love to hear your thoughts on that.
So help me out there. So what's the question there? I'm phasing here. So I guess are we looking to? I'm phasing there. I mean, it's not about the product. I mean, to me, right? Customer jobs. That's the whole point of customer jobs, right? It's not about the product. It's about the new you that you evolve into as a result of bringing that product into your life. You see, so that's what it's about. So if she's trying to talk about the product, she's going to evolve back into what they were doing 30 years ago, which is, here's how hoppy the beer is. Here's how bubbly it is. So
right.
I feel that as a regression. So that's how I would answer that. I mean, it's good to have both, and I think that's where you as a brand designer have to figure out, how much do we want to draw the connection of the experience you have in consuming the product versus how that progress or how the consumption of that product affects your life. So a good example is Snickers, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant example, right? So it's, if you watch those commercials, there's two things going on. So there's they talk about it a little bit, they show it and, how it looks. And I think that maybe might be enough, for someone to kind of imagine what it's like to eat it. But again, it's all about, and even in their marketing, Snickers satisfies, right? So there's that too. But again, it's always, think back to the Betty White thing, like when when she's getting tackled, and it's like you're not you when you're hungry.
Right.
That's what the branding's about.
Right.
And then you see the guy eat it, and maybe he expresses satisfaction or satiation in that. So you are alluding to the experience of consuming the product, but it goes beyond that and showing here is actually the total value of the product. It's not just in the act of consuming it, it's the effects of that consumption into your life. So great, I'm hungry, I'm failing. Here's a product, I consume it. It tastes good, it's making me feel satiated. Okay, great, now I can go back and kick ass.
It's the effects of that product in your life.
Yeah. So, and we'll continue with the Snickers example, which again, they really nailed it, right? There's the other example where it's really funny. There's some commercials where there's one person is handing someone else a Snickers bar. Actually, that's most of the time, actually. Mm-hmm. And because the person who's kind of struggling sometimes in that moment is like someone's trying to make progress. Like there's two guys trying to pick up two girls, right? And one guy's being a jerk, and the other guy's like, dude, why are you being a jerk to these girls? Why
I've seen this.
Doing that? Yeah, I think it's the Joe Pesci one, right?
Yeah.
And so the person there who's actually trying to make progress is like the guy handing the other guy the Snickers. Like, dude, you need to up your game. have the Snickers. It's like he's the one giving the Snickers to the other guy. So
Right.
like they're both making progress in that situation. But again, it's not about just getting rid of my hunger. It's like, okay, getting rid of my hunger so I can get back to, trying to pick up girls or play the football game or basically get back to my life and, be my optimal self.
So it's how the brand is pulling you towards progress, or helping you, guiding you towards progress.
Yeah.
In the future.
Yeah. So like another example, why not? Is I think which is great, which is Coke, right? So
Yeah.
if you remember the big debacle with Coke, and when they changed the formula, and it was interesting was, and there's a I'll look online for it. You just Google it, like new Coke disaster or something like that, and you'll come across an article that quotes the CEO, and he says no amount of marketing research could have told us about the degree of emotional attachment people had to the taste, a particular taste of Coke. See? And of course, what it was like people were like, look, Coke fits in my life in a particular way. The taste of Coke reminds me of growing up as a kid, or, so on and so forth. Like, there's this emotional attachment actually to a flavor, and I've kind of built up some expectations around that and how that fits in my life. And so if you change that, it's not about I don't like the taste of Coke anymore. It's that you've disrupted this balance in my life that Coke meant to me.
And so I like Coke as an example as well. Do you think that the values of people as they change, as the world around us changes, as culture changes, does it just give room for a new Coke to arise that not only delivers the progress towards a new self, or progress towards the envisionment of your new future, but also delivers a product that is congruent with the consumer values?
Okay, so here's a good. Yep. Okay, so here's a good example, right? Which is, and again, going back to what we said before, are you interested? Are you doing a quality play, or are you doing an innovation play? And now I'll kind of unpack that a little bit. The quality play might be, okay, let's invent a competitor to Coke. We'll call it Pepsi, right? And we'll try and steal. We'll try to make a better version of Coke, and steal away people who are drinking Coke.
Yeah.
And so Pepsi figured out, more or less, like, okay, if we make it a little sweeter, then we can steal the people who would want a sweeter version of Coke, more or less, right? So that's like a quality play, right? How can we improve the quality of Coke? Realize in a new product, because you can kind of compare it. If you just think of Pepsi, or vice versa, right? Pepsi as a different alternative to Coke. It's kind of like a one-to-one alternative, right? Then that's a quality play, right? And then that's how we're going to design a product. That's how we're going to grow, stealing from Coke. Or your play is different. So we think, okay, well, maybe what we can do is help customers introduce a new me or something different. And I think maybe that's an example of, I'm off the top of my head here. I'm not sure if Diet Coke is a better example of that, or
Green
if
Coke, or
yes, exactly. I was about to say or the green Coke,
right.
where you're either tapping into maybe some existing expectations or not, or you're trying to create new expectations. So, like, let's say green Coke. It's like maybe people just assumed I don't drink soda because it's unhealthy. Goodbye. So I'm going to go to vitamin water or whatever, right? And that's just, they just accept that's the way it is, right? Now, and then suppose Coke thinks, okay, how can we, how can we create a new product that does not, take away sales from Coke,
Right.
a Coca-Cola Classic, but can sit alongside next to it and bring in new customers, or maybe persuade existing customers to buy both. I mean, there's lots of ways that it can play out, but they thought, okay, well, what if we, make the idea of like a healthy soda, right? And so that's kind of, I would say like that's that kind of play there. So that's a maybe changing expectations of what a soda could be.
And is that a derivative of the progress that the customer is trying to make, or is that a new type of progress altogether?
Oof, that's tricky because I haven't done the research to find, but I would say that it might be easier for Diet Coke, which is, again, you have to go back in time. You have to go back in time and think, I think it was introduced in 1981, but go back to 1980, and it was just Coke equals make me fat. That's just, or soda, right? Soda equals make me fat, and that's just the way it is. But if you kind of introduce this new way of progress, right? Which is, well, actually, you know what? You can have a soda experience out there that isn't fattening. Then you're changing people's expectations of what a soda could be. So it's like before Diet Coke, soda equals make me fat, and period. Like that's it, right? Whereas, oh, wait a minute, you mean soda can be different? Like soda can do different things. It can be an energy, like like Pepsi Max or whatever, right? It's like, oh, you mean it can be energy experience?
Right.
Oh, or it can be an experience that's part of my diet lifestyle. Oh, okay. So it's about changing those expectations. Because again, if it's like, it's tricky. And like another example, and I'm just, sometimes it helps to add some contrast here. Maybe another great example is of changing expectations, which is a little easier for us to talk about. Would be it's cliche but it's true, right? Is the iPhone, right?
Yeah.
Everyone talked to January 2007. Talk to BlackBerry owners and be like, tell us about your BlackBerry, and like, oh, it's amazing, I love it. Do you want us to change anything? Like, no, it's brilliant. Don't mess with it. I love it. Don't change anything. Or maybe they'll say, oh, I wish the keyboard was a little angled like this, or I wish the keyboard was, could do this, or like that's what they'll talk about.
Yeah.
But if you talk to customers about that, again, you're just investigating existing expectations of a smartphone. What they do and don't like about the smartphone experience of 2006. But that does not necessarily get you to a totally new expectations of what a smartphone could be, right? And that's what that's like the innovation thing. That's creating what should be and redefining things. And so that's kind of basically what and if you go back and watch the introduction that Steve Jobs did of the iPhone. The first 10, 15 minutes of that is basically him talking about how terrible keyboards are in phones, right?
Right.
Because he's trying to persuade people that their existing expectations, I don't say that are wrong, but he's trying to persuade them that, there could be a new way. It's like, I'm going to articulate the problem with your current expectations, and then I'm going to show you about how we think you should be interacting with the world.
I love that. So I'm kind of hearing that, or the way I'm interpreting it is that brands that are second rate or brands that are not that great or not going to be able to sustain over time try and improve upon quality, the functional benefit, if you will, are trying to articulate that, which is kind of this zero-sum game.
Yeah.
And the great brands are the ones that have the confluence of the overarching progress towards the future in the brand ideal, this overarching narrative, as well as they're able to hone in and to put a microscope onto specific products or industries or segments and say, okay, let's innovate on this. And I would love for you, and there's progress towards innovation as well. So I'd love for you to talk about brand and innovation. Where are they similar? Where are they different? How customer jobs helps with intersect the two, or maybe they don't. Maybe they're completely different. And I think a good way to do that would maybe to explain Apple, as maybe Apple is the epitome of this.
Yeah. So just think about how a lot of people will line up for an Apple product or be excited or anticipate an Apple product that they know nothing about, right? It's almost like, I've never used the next iPhone. I don't even, right? I bet you if you ask some people standing in line for the next version of the iPhone, like, do you even know like all the new features? And they're like, oh, I think it has a new screen or something. Like, I don't really know. It's, of course, it's a spectrum. Sure, I'm sure there's people who could list all the new features, and then some people are just like, it's new, and I think it's because Apple offers modernization to you, right? They trust Apple to they trust Apple with making me a better me, right? So it's like, I don't really even care. I mean, they do, right? But I'm kind of generalizing just to. I'm not really so concerned about it, what exactly the product does, but I just trust that Apple's going to make something amazing technology, and I have trust in them. Again, like, trust is huge, right? And maybe that's something else too. Like, great brands have great trust, but I trust a great brand to make me better, right? And so I think that's what Apple does. Like, I'm not really sure how those AirPods work. I'm not really sure how this Apple Watch is supposed to work, or I'm not even sure how I'm supposed to fit into my life. But I just think that if I just buy it and just start using it, I trust that Apple's figured out that it's going to make me better. It's going to modernize me. That's what's going to happen. So I think that's how things like Apple wins, and like, compared to, like, let's say like Microsoft, right? I mean, like, I don't even know, like how does Microsoft or any other products help me like become a better me? Like, like I don't even know. And also, like this perfect example is how when brands are struggling, actually even Apple did this for a little bit too, even, but it's just like, again, it's just, it's like, oh, we're not the competitor. It's like Pepsi is better than Coke, like, because we don't have a clear message of our own, so we're just going to say, oh, people prefer our product over the competitors,
Yeah.
And so it's like, we can only talk about ourselves with respect to a competitor. So I think that's kind of a telegraphing a weakness, or maybe an insecurity, or a lack of focus for that brand. It's like why should I buy from you guys? Oh, because we're not Apple, or like whatever. Why should I buy from Pepsi? Oh, because it tastes better than Coke, or something like that. It's always positioning ourselves against a competitor, because they don't have an identity of their own, perhaps.
Okay, great. So, what is a bad brand? What's your definition of a bad brand?
I guess I would say, kind of continue on that thread of thought that I was just talking about, which is, a quote unquote. I mean, let's just say, I don't want to, put judgment on there necessarily. I don't want to say bad brand, but maybe I would say that just a less successful brand, and that was, I guess it's just one that is, well, I'm not even gonna go from a judgment point of view. I guess I'll just say I think when brands are not good or bad, they know it, right? Because there's no loyalty here, or there's no, they may not say it, but we lack a real identity, or when we ask people about our brand, they can't really articulate anything, or why fit in their life. It's forgettable. It's that's it. And so I guess maybe it's not so much a bad brand from a opinion judgment point of view. I would just say that the people who do have a bad brand know it, or at least are trying to hide it, or deep down inside they know it, and usually the characteristics are, we can't differentiate ourselves, or we're lacking a vision, or we don't, our loyalty is zero. Like I think they kind of know it. Does that answer your question?
No, absolutely, absolutely. Um, well, more specifically towards a bad brand, or your idea of a bad brand, are there characteristics that specifically pop into your mind? Like, for example, they're 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 not even remotely close to try and help you make progress towards the future. For example, I don't want to put words into your mouth.
Yeah. Well, so you're right. So again, if it's like, why buy from us? Well, because we're not that guy. I go, okay, well, that's not really so great. Or if your overall message is just like negative, like, oh, this is stupid. Don't do that. Like, buy from us, or just again, like, buy from us because the other guy is a snob or something. It's kind of like putting someone, trying to like raise yourself up by putting someone down. And I would say like that's probably a sign, a red flag of a brand that is, quote unquote bad, but I would say just struggling in their own selves. And again, it's like, if I don't know how to say why me, all I can say is, well, here's why not that guy.
Oh, lovely. That's it. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Alan, is branding important?
I would say, and again, I would not put myself as a brand expert, right? So I want to put that, but from just my gajillions of experience with consumer research and developing new products and advancing brands and companies, it's, as I was saying before, trust. Like, trust is huge. Trust is huge, and I think that once customers trust your brand or have trust in you, that's like one of the most important characteristics. They trust you to help them make progress, or that they trust that you will you're there, like you're serving their best interests, whether they even know what their best interests are or not. They may have some vague idea, right? But I just trust that this brand, is here to serve me and to modernize me and has my self betterment at heart. So I'll buy and I'll give them that trust and follow them along.
How do you get over that leap if you're a new brand? That leap of faith, so to speak.
Yeah. Again, it's just okay. So it made me think about this. How, like, and I don't want to just like speculate. I want to actually be like, from my personal research and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Usually, it comes from a lot of it is some kind of social proof. Okay, so there's two things, right? And this goes back to like the idea of the diffusion of innovations, right? Where there's a social dynamic here that is required, because that is so much of proof generation. And again, it's also a spectrum of people. Some people need less proof of trust in a brand, and they're willing to take a risk. And some people are least willing to take a risk to change.
Right.
So, I would say focus in on the people who are, thinking about the diffusion of innovations, the people who fall in the category of innovators, right? The people who are willing to take risks, who have much more tolerance when things go bad, right? And speak to them and get them on board onto your brand, your platform, and empower them, and then through the markets or society as social systems, you will generate trust, through just the network effect. That's what I have seen, and think about it and doing. Or, and then also, but like that's also part of good advertising too. It's like figuring out how can I present to you a concept for a product that you will win trust in this concept. So like I think like that's an important of the research that I do too, is how can we put, if I say that this pill will make you into a genius, what do I have to say, or how do I have to package it, or how do I have to sell it, or how do I persuade you to trust me and or the product I've put out.
Beautiful. That's a great segue into my next question, is that persuasion, being able to present an idea or a concept or a product or a brand to somebody and have them compelled by what you have to say, in my experience, has been rooted in truly great research. So I would like you to explain or talk about or
Yep.
how you think about approaching research, how you use customer jobs in research, and what that looks like for you. It sounds like that's something that resonates with you, so I'd love to hear about it.
Yep. So and I just want to make sure, and if I don't answer your question, let me know.
No, so, it's free flowing, so I just...
Yeah. I just want to make sure I answer your question. Mm-hmm. So it's you're right. So research, okay, but there's different kinds of research. So there's a type. So there's looking. So most research that people do is backwards looking, right?
Explain that.
Okay. Yep. How did you win trust in products that you're already buying or have bought in the past? Right. So basically, that's me just pulling out of your brain, wrestling out of me reaching into your brain and pulling out an answer that's already in your brain, more or less. Right. It's like, how did you know that the iPhone was right for you? Okay. Or that you could trust it or whatever it is. Right.
Yeah.
So do that. Versus, okay, how do I bring into the world something that's new that no one has seen before? And that needs a different type of research, because I can't do historical stuff because I'll only be learning on how you got trust into the BlackBerry, right?
Yeah.
Like, knowing how you won trust into the BlackBerry doesn't necessarily mean how you'll win trust into the iPhone.
Absolutely.
So that's so the kind of research that I do is basically this kind of co-design.
How do you explain this?
Yeah. Yep. So it's okay. So it's kind of like rapid prototyping or rapid concepting, but involving the customer into it. So what we do, suppose we go back to 2005, and I just, hand you an iPhone or show you a box or whatever, and be like, what do you think about this? And you may be like, oh, like what is that? Is that like a remote control? Like, whatever, right? And so I try to figure out how I need to present it to you so that you can kind of recognize it for what it is, and that you will I guess trust whatever it is that I put on there. And so again, going back to Steve Jobs, who was great at this, if you remember, so much like his keynotes for new products, they were long, and they were like really long product demos.
Yeah.
But
not like anything else.
Yeah. So it was long product demos to persuade you, right, into the concept. Like, there's a reason why when you introduced the iPad, the stage was a table and a chair. I mean, he never done that before. I mean, he sat at a chair, went to a desk, but that's to use like a desktop laptop or a desktop computer in 1995 when he was doing that kind of stuff back then. Mm-hmm. But he never had a pseudo living room set up where he sat down and was using a product. Mm-hmm. Again, that was all about, thinking about, here's how we can think about portraying trust to the consumers. Now, again, I kind of veered off there from the co-design thing, so I'll bring it back to that. But that's kind of it. It's like, how can I help what do I have to show to them that will help them understand and trust that what this concept or product can be or should be.
Okay, so to do with the co-design, how is that specifically different from backwards looking? Well, I kind of understand that, but co-design, what are the methods that you're using? How are you
Yep. So it's actually pretty straightforward. Yeah. So I'll tell you very specifically, right? So, from my own for AIM, right, for my mortgage marketplace I created. So, for example, I talked to first. I knew I wanted to create a new, because like I'm an innovation kind of guy. So I want to create new possibilities and evolve in progress to get all that kind of stuff. Like that's me. So I first had to be like, okay, is there an opportunity here? So I had friends who say, oh, I'm having lunch with someone, with this banker. I know these bankers who are always asking me for leads. Like they're always asking for more leads. Like, give me leads, and when I say lead, it's someone looking for a mortgage. Like that's it. Like I want more leads, more people looking for mortgages. Send them to me. You know a guy who wants a mortgage? Send them to me.
Yeah, right.
And so, I talked to them, and I basically just want to validate that there's an opportunity there, and they'd say, basically, I would say, like, how much time and money do you spend on this? And they'd be like, oh, we spend about $15,000-$20,000 a month on lead generation, right? On getting leads, and then like right away you'd say, can you give me more leads?
Right,
so
right.
And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, we'll see. So, but I was, I just want to, be like, okay, well, just tell me how you work today, right? Okay, so, their day was basically 6 hours on the phone or running around the city chasing leads, going to open houses, going to events, whatever. And then like an hour or 2 hours a day actually closing mortgages, like processing applications and actually closing deals, right? And that was their day. And they just assume that's the way it is. And if you went to these guys and talked to them, they would, in like quote unquote, what do you want? The typical kind of, thinking that serving, customer needs or believing that customers know what they want or can express what they want. They always would say more leads. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, okay, that's interesting. So I then went back and talked with my co-founder. I'm like, look, based upon, our understanding of how they work today and our collective experience and creativity of the technologies that are out there and what new technologies we could create, how should they be operating? Like, how should a mortgage banker's day be like, right? And basically it was like, well, they should be the other way around, 1 or 2 hours a day dealing with leads, trying to capture more leads, and then 6 hours a day closing deals. Like that should be their day.
Right.
And so then we came up with this idea of this, basically the idea of, well, we'll just kind of set up the system, this marketplace, whatever. I won't go into details of it because it'll take too long. But basically a scenario where like they're literally like their phone just rings when someone is ready for a mortgage, right? Or they get an email like directly like, hey, I'm looking for a mortgage, and they're already like pre-qualified and they're all, you get it, right? Yeah. So it's just like their phone rings with deals, right? So it's like, here's the thing. It was not about, I did not get them more leads. I actually got them less leads, right?
But you got them
better.
But
they were already, were qualified, and they were, they didn't have to chase. So they basically had, like, I was kind of outsourcing those 6 hours a day of chasing leads to a technology, right? So anyway, and so, but like, how could I get them to buy whatever I'm selling? And that's kind of where I got to the co-design thing, which is, I would talk to them. Okay, so I would go back to them. Okay, tell me about your thing. oh, I want more leads. I want more leads. And I would say, oh, okay. Well, I've heard about this company that's out there that does this thing. It's like a marketplace.
Yeah.
And whatever. And they're like, oh, really? Let me show you the website, or here, I have a pamphlet right here. And then be like, have you heard about this? Like, what do you think about this? And then they start talking about it. Like, oh, like marketplace. Like, oh, what does that mean? Does that mean like buy the leads? Like what? Mortgage bankers? Like, yeah. Oh, like they start like, so they're actually saying out loud, like they're trying to make sense of it. Again, going back, they're trying to illustrate if they do or don't trust it, or their doubts about it. They're trying to you get them to articulate if they understand it, or get them to articulate. Be like, you can say to them like, okay, great. Well, you understand that this marketplace and how it works. Like, how does that change your life as a banker? And then, if they quote unquote get it, they're like, oh, well, this totally changes how I work. I changed. The old me is someone running around with my head cut off trying to get leads. The new me, right, is someone who has leads come to them. Like that's like, and like I'm spending my days closing deals and chasing things and growing my business in ways I couldn't grow it before. So they're, and they get excited about that. And then that's when they say, okay, if you know these guys, let me know. I want to sign up. And so going back to the co-design thing, I had to figure out, kind of what features or what capabilities, what copy to use, how to communicate the concept well, that kind of hit all those stages that got them from like, oh, what is this you're showing me, all the way through of, oh, if I integrate this product, I know it, I trust it, I can understand it, I can see how it applies to me, I can see how I can use it, and I can use it. And the next step is I understand how it changes my life. So like once you kind of can like check off all those boxes, then you know that you've got a good concept, and that's a time then to I created my, I guess you call it MVP, but it was a very well developed MVP, and I just made some tweaks after that. Once people started using it, to understand kind of how to get more people to use it or how to reduce churn. But that was how I did it.
Okay.
So does that answer your co-design kind of question?
Yeah, I think it does. The way that I'm thinking about it right now is that you're looking at customers and you're saying, okay, what are they doing right now? How's it? How are you kind of like, oh, what's going on here? What's going on? What do they want? What do they need? What do they think they need?
Yeah.
And then there's this inflection point where you say, well, this is the way that they think it is. This is the way they're doing it. How should it be done?
Yes. Yep.
And the way that you go about answering that question of how should it be done is that you try and, through iteration, I would imagine, but also a bit of conjecture and assumption.
Yep. Oh, yes. Yeah,
would be to say is, what is the new me that they're looking to achieve? And perhaps some of that is with the mortgage example is that right now they're running around getting leads, and as a result, the solution or the thing that they're getting there is business. They're getting clients, but the new me, as an assumption, would be, well, what if so maybe it goes from should be to what if. That's the next inflection point. What if leads came to them? Well, how would that work? What would that look like? Is that sort of the
Yeah, so there's one thing in there though, which is, I'll go back and I'll qualify a little bit. So they don't. It's not. I was trying to remember exactly what you said, but it's not about understanding, getting from them what that, like uncovering from them as if it was fully formed in their mind what that new life of theirs should be. It's basically me showing you here are possible versions of yourself, right? Of your life and how it could be, I believe should be, right?
Yeah.
But or right, like which version of these is attractive to you, right?
Ah,
Like, you get it?
yeah.
And so then, like, that's how it works. Because again, like, so going back to the co-design thing, like, there were times where I would say, oh, because of this, you'll never have to go to mortgage conventions or whatever.
Right.
But that was like, but then they would say, no. But I want to keep doing those because
Right.
I meet other contacts there. So like, oh, so
Right.
the new you still goes to these mortgage conferences, but that's because there's all this other, even though you get your leads there, it's
Right.
actually for all this other stuff too that you do. So I'm not going to put out there that this replaces that or try to replace that.
Right.
So I'm again, it's kind of, putting things out there and see what concepts they can understand and are attracted by too.
Okay. That's wonderful. That's really great. Quickly, because I want to be cognizant of your time, but I would love to briefly talk about three things. One is design. How does customer jobs influence design? And the second is the interview. This is something that I've just loved with customer jobs. The couple of times, more than a couple of times that I've used it so far is the switch interview. So I'd love for you to talk about that. And
Okay.
lastly, politics. I would love to talk about how maybe not customer jobs was used through the last political cycle.
Oh, goodness, those are all big questions. What was your first question again? What was the first one?
So design.
Oh, design.
How does customer jobs influence?
Oh, that's a huge question. Because again, I think we have to even unpack what design is. So, again, I mean, for me, design is about. I'm a design theory guy. So, to me, design is is going back to actually like jobs to be done is design. It's thinking about what ought to be, right? It's a creative process. What ought to be or what should be, like how do we construct these new realities, right?
Right.
And what do we have to do with these new realities to make sure that they fit into existing ones or that people can transition to these new realities? So, for me, like design is not, should it be blue or red? Or,
Right.
that's I don't know what that is. That's
Art.
art. I don't know what to call it, but it's
okay.
Maybe industrial design or something. I don't know, but that's that's a little different for me. I think of design as, yes, is it blue or red does fit into like what ought to be thing, but that's jumping way down to the tactical things that you do.
Right.
So I guess that's my best question there answer is that again, the design thing is all about figuring out what ought to be or what should be or what could be and constructing that.
Okay.
And and that's why we design is like as a process. It's figuring out what kind of painting I should create, but I don't really know exactly how to create that painting, step by step until I've created it. Like I actually have to go through and, I made a blue sky, but maybe I should make the sky red. Or, it's like, then only looking backwards do I recognize, I can connect all the dots.
Right.
So there's that. And then the interview thing, again, that's just the switch interview is very much around quality, right? Why did you choose product A over product B? And kind of going back to before, it's comparing, against a job to be done that's kind of formulated in, a design of a new you that's in your brain, that you're kind of working towards, which products are better at helping you achieve that new me, right? That progress. Or what should we change to an existing product to do that better? That's it. And the election, do you mean the election in the U.S.?
In the U.S., right?
Yep.
Right. In the U.S.
So,
or politics at a higher level, like
okay, yeah.
maybe
Well,
you
let's
can
be
use
specific.
the U.S. or whatever as an example.
Yeah. So actually, the reason why Trump got elected is the exact same reason why Obama got elected before him. It was hope. It was hope.
Right.
That's why people vote for quote unquote change. It's hope.
Right.
Like that was Barack Obama's hope, but Trump's hope was to people who felt disenfranchised during the previous 8 years or ignored.
Right.
And that's why he has this base of people where, it's recently, current events wise, he just fired the head of the FBI who's investigating him and doing where some people consider serious things. But there's a core bedrock of people who just like don't care and about that stuff, and they don't care about that because to him, he is a symbol. He is hope that, I will not be left behind. And so because he's offering me, he's the only one who spoke to me and offered me hope, I will go along with that no matter what. And honestly, if you look at the psychology of it, this is how like fascism starts and dictatorships and harps. That was, people voted for, Hitler was voted into office. People, forget about that, but he was voted. They voted because he talked about, long story short, but, the Weimar Republic was failing. It was like the old way, inflation was huge. You all were starving. The Versailles Treaty humiliated Germany. I offer you hope. I offer you the Third Reich,
Right.
the Third Empire. We're going to be, make Germany great again. That's basically what he was offering, right?
Right.
And so it's all about hope, which again, this actually goes back to jobs. Like think about your brand. Like Trump had great branding. For a very particular type of people.
Right.
Great branding.
Yeah.
America's going to come first.
Right.
And like he spoke like a wacko, but to a certain type of people that came across as honest.
Right.
So that was his branding, and just like Obama's, and it's because it's interesting. A lot of the people who voted for Obama, I'm sorry, I'll do this. A lot of people who voted for Trump had voted for Obama.
Right, because the job is the same.
Yes. Yes.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Really great. So,
it was all about hope, but the hope was, well, yeah, you get it right. It was a different kind of hope. I guess the hope that Trump offered was their disillusionment from the hope that to them Obama did not give them. That makes sense.
Right. No, it does. It's almost like to go back to jobs. They were searching for hope in one soda company, let's say.
Yes.
They drank that soda and it just didn't work.
Yep.
Now another soda company came along and said, "Hey, we're offering you hope, but our bottle is red, not blue."
Yeah. Yep. There you go. That's it.
They went and bought it.
That was it.
Oh, lovely, Alan. I just have a couple of quick fire questions for you. So how it works is I'll say a phrase, and I just want you to say the first thing that comes to mind. It's like kind of like a stream of consciousness type thing.
Oh, all right.
So when I say culture, you think
bacteria.
Oh.
Okay, that's
good. No, that's good.
I didn't.
No. That's good. Let's come back to that in a second.
Okay.
When I say branding, you think
packaging.
Brands of the past are
old. That's what I got.
Okay. Brands today are
want to be.
Brands in the future need to
understand what could be.
And that's it. Or no, one more. All brands need to. So brands of the future and the past.
Oh. I have to say offer progress. That's the best I got.
And just quickly back to bacteria. Bacteria, as bacteria helps you grow. Small bits of bacteria help you grow. Too much bacteria, you'll die. Just curious about.
Oh no, that's interesting. No, I was just thinking of what do you do with cultures, like in a lab. There's actually.
Right. Oh,
there was a company. Actually, this weekend I was meeting with I was looking to join a company as an investor and co-founder, and it was a biotech lab.
Okay.
So we were talking about cultures. That's really it. So and of course
Okay.
it's growing bacteria. That was it.
Okay. Okay. Well, Alan, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being on the show. And
Okay.
um, yeah, it was really nice talking to you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome.